welcome once again. It's been a long weekend, and of course, lots of races around the country. We know what happened on the East Coast here.
Oh, no,
Great
man.
going, and it just goes to show that we are a disciplined set of people. I want to say welcome
There
to
you
my
go.
co-host, Freddie
Very
Kissoon.
low.
So I'll hand you over to him. I'm going
Is
to
which one
say
we
that
had to
he
use
has
it?
been sharp. Um, I want to play
Gildarie
some
King?
jams with him, but he doesn't look in the mood. Freddie Kissoon, over to you, and
Oh, is that okay?
we would love to do some introduction of our guest for today. Before we start anything with our guest, Member of Parliament Ganesh Mahipaul, I just want to ask really Ganesh, take this opportunity. I want to give you this solid, and I want to show you what Guyana is. This is the border. This is a million times better than an apple that we buy every day. We Guyanese, I'm not criticizing you kids. Look at this. This came from our tree. This is one of the best fruits in the world. This is one of the most nutritious fruits in the world. This should be in our supermarkets. You go into our supermarket, especially Marseille and Pumax, and you see a variety of foreign fruits, and we Guyanese buy it. This is one of the most succulent fruits in the world. I'm going to give Ganesh a piece here and ask Ganesh to taste it. Ganesh? And
Where is that? Which way is that? Yes, Caesar. My phone ring. Yeah, boss.
This represents the denial of the colonial mentality of Ghana. This is actually written by them.
Maybe
I
you eat
saw a
him.
CNN program that this is one of the most nutritious foods. But Ganesh, let's introduce you. This is Ganesh Mahipaul, Member of Parliament for the PNC in the absolute AFC coalition. Ganesh, we have two things in common. Your wife is from Wickenham, and my wife's parents are from Wickenham. So there's a Wickenham connection there.
Hold a
And
second, Freddie. Gentlemen, we've been told that the song is very low. Could you just turn it up, see whatever's happening, or people need to hear? Um, could before you go on, Freddie, any song at all? We not hearing. The guys are saying no. There's audio. You guys could just tell us. Oh, finally, just said finally. Freddie, back to you.
we had an audio problem there. So if you missed what I'm saying, I hope you didn't miss the guava thing. Ganesh and I have two things in common. His wife is from Wickenham. My wife has her roots in Wickenham through her parents and grandparents. The second thing we have in common is we both belong to UG. Ganesh appeared.
Used to.
Ganesh, yeah.
How could you say you belong?
Belonged.
Oh,
Sorry you
okay.
missed it.
I want to hear.
Ganesh appeared as a 17-year-old youth at UG and immediately made a name for himself at UG. Things at UG, and it was predictable that he would have gone into politics. One, on both issues in which he was catapulted into controversy and into the national limelight, I supported him. One was the fictional charge that he took a loan from the student union and didn't pay it back. I knew he did. And when that came out, that was not right. But that was Ganesh and his politics and those who were his distractors. The second thing Ganesh did, and it was obvious that this was a young man that was going to go into politics, he took a lecture by the name of Evan Prasad for discipline to the university administration because Evan was allegedly using
extensive scatology in his class. And Ganesh took it up. There was an inquiry. Mr. Evan Prasad got off, but then allegedly Mr. Prasad threatened Ganesh. Ganesh took him to the administration, and Mr. Prasad was suspended. Ganesh, welcome to the program. And let me say, personally, and I'm speaking frankly, I am disappointed the way your politics evolve. But that's your choice which party you go in and what you do. But at UG, you always had that stardom, political stardom in you. A lot of our viewers would say the stardom is in the wrong direction, but that's your choice.
Well, thank you very much, Freddie and Leonard, for having me on the program. And I want to first of all say that with reference to your first point, the money that was borrowed was paid back in full.
I knew it was.
It was paid back in full, and it was for medical purposes. I elaborated on that before, and I cleared it. I would like to believe I cleared the air then, and anybody who wishes to see what was my position then, they can Google it. It was well articulated in Kaichor News and Stabrook News. And with reference to the lecturer, Evan Rade Prasad, when you said that, a set of memories just kept flying back in my head. And I remember that I engaged you on that matter concerning Evan Rade Prasad, and you advised me how to proceed. I remember writing the letters and sending it to you via email. I don't know if you still have that same email. I think it's Freddie Kissoon at yahoo.com. And you were guiding me on how to proceed with that matter. And as given the environment in which we were functioning, and knowing Evan Rade Prasad's connection to the People's Progressive Party, and given what came out of it, I'm not disappointed, but I'm somewhat appalled by the fact that the university didn't see it fit to replace that gentleman there and then, because he went on to do exactly what he did to us, to other students.
No. Please.
Well, it was reported to me then. Let me say it that way. It was reported to me that he went on to do the same things.
It was alleged without any proof that he went on.
It was reported to me that he went on to do the very things we alleged him to have done.
Though that has not been proven. Good.
Thank you very much. Ganesh Mahipaul, the Honorable Ganesh Mahipaul, suspended right now from Parliament because there was an issue with the base. I must tell you also, he's 33, said to be, you're the youngest parliamentarian or one of the youngest?
I am, the person who is the youngest is 4 months younger than I am.
Very good. And he's also a member of the Public Accounts Committee, which is the body, the committee within the Parliament, which examines the red flags raised by the Auditor General as to government spendings. First thing I would want to say to you, Ganesh, welcome. I want to ask you, sir, if I want to bring you back to the 2020 elections. You were one of the most vocal of the then government persons. We bring you to the statement of polls, and I want to ask you, sir, if you believe the statement of polls, would you agree with me if I say to you that the statement of polls would have been the ultimate document or the ultimate evidence which shows who won the election?
Let me answer that by saying to you, first of all, that I entered politics in 2008 when I was approached by Winston Paul Murray, the late. Before him, Madam Gail Teixeira and the late Bibi Shadiq, when I was serving on the University of Guyana board, Freddie, approached me to join the PPP. And I chose Winston Murray's path because he and I had a discussion and I found favor with what he believed in and what he articulated to me. And I was there then. Fast forward to my time in government, 2015-2020, I served in Region 3, Essequibo Islands, West Demerara, as the Regional Information Officer and was integrally involved in government business at that level, region number 3. In 2020, when we had the elections, I campaigned for the APNU AFC and at the region 3 level. Everything was done at the region 3 level. I was then asked to participate in the national recount exercise, something I welcomed. And I was so moved by that national recount exercise. I have learned so much there that I'm actually happy that I played a part in the national recount exercise, the first ever in the history of our country. The results for me were declared on statements of recount. And the statements of recount is what I saw. The statements of recount is what placed the People's Progressive Party in government. And the statements of recount is what is being challenged in the court. And I will speak to you on the statements of recount, but with reference to the statements of poll for the entire country, I do not have knowledge with reference to that.
Did you ever see it? Did you ever ask for it?
I was involved in Region 3 and I saw all the statements of poll for Region number 3. We also asked at that level for a recount in Region number 3. The returning officer was one Mr. Jagdeo, and our request was denied.
Did you look at the figures afterwards of the recount? Did you do a comparison with the numbers that you would have seen? Were there a lot of, difference?
Well, I don't know if the word a lot for me is relative. For me, there were considerable anomalies, abnormalities, and irregularities. And on that basis, I personally hold the view that elections 2020 was marred with fraud, abnormalities, irregularities, and anomalies.
That statement could be challenged and challenged with intellectual extensiveness. Now, Ganesh, the election in Guyana took place in 10 regions. On Tuesday morning, with Ms. Roxanne Myers as Deputy Chief Election Officer and Mr. Lowenfield, on Tuesday morning, 9 regions were declared, and there were absolutely no complaints by any particular party that those regions have a problem. Those regions were counted, were certified, and there were no objections by polling agents on other side. Things went haywire, things went into insane, cloudy directions with Region 4. Therefore, given all that was going on, Ganesh, the logical thing for the world to have done was to ask for a recount of Region 4. In fact, Mr. Jagdeo, the leader of the PPP, wanted a recount only of Region 4 because that was where the area of controversy was. It so happened that Mr. Granger did not want a recount of Region 4 only. He wanted a total recount, which was what was put to him. Mr. Jagdeo accepted the recount. So, for me, Ganesh, the recount should not have taken place because there were no strategic configuration of the elections prior to Region 4 that called the elections prior to the controversy in Region 4 that called the election in question. But having just outlined what you believe was fraud, one of the things I find the most thing that people find strange about this election, Ganesh, is not one legislator from any Commonwealth country, not one legislator from any regional parliament, and one legislator from the Black Caucus that pronounced that election to be unfair, including Hakim Jeffries, who is being touted by the lunatic fringe as the man to turn to. That man, Jeffries, has not certified, pronounced, or made any statement that the 2020 March election was fraud and this government that's in power is fraudulent. No, Ganesh, you have to take that into consideration, all the gamut of what I've just said, into consideration when you're going to pronounce on fraud.
Let me first of all correct you and say that region number 3 requested a recount. I was there and I played my part in ensuring that the letter of request was sent to the returning officer requesting a recount. So to conclude that 9 regions declared without any objection is inaccurate. Region 3 requested a recount and it was refused.
Who refused it?
The returning officer, Mr. Jagdeo.
And
Region 5.
and the chief
let me
election
finish.
officer has jurisdiction
Let
over
me
him.
finish.
Sure.
Region 5 also requested a recount. I know of that because my comrade from Region 5 reported to us that he also requested a recount and it was refused. Region 6 requested a recount and I think Region 6, it was granted there, and in the middle of counting it, I stand corrected, in the middle of counting it was pulled back, something along that line. But to say it was only Region 4 is grossly inaccurate, and perhaps you should have been more integrally involved in what happened as opposed to just looking at it from the outside and drawing conclusions. You speak about the statement I made reference to fraud, irregularities, and anomalies. I sat in the National Recount Center. I was in booth number 5. I saw boxes open. I saw that there were no statutory documentation to verify thousands of votes in that election. I saw that there were missing poll books. I saw that there were unsigned oaths of identity. I saw that there were names ticked off on the official list of electors indicating that they have voted, and we objected, myself included, to names that were ticked off, documented it, and it was even sent to GCOM. I know of GCOM sending those names to the Chief Immigrations Officer, and the Chief Immigrations Officer wrote back to the GCOM chair lady indicating that these people are not within this jurisdiction. I know of names that we have objected to, and when it was sent for verification, it was verified that they are dead. And I also know and heard with my own ears that the GCOM chair lady indicated that this is of great concern, knowing that these things were verified by the GRO and the Chief Immigrations Officer. And you, Mr. Kissoon, can go back and research it if you have not done so, or you can even engage Claudette Singh and ask her if she did not say that these concerns that were raised and verified, if she did not say that they are of great concern. And what bothers me as a young person in this country that participated in the national recount, mind you, CARICOM's report only said 18% of the entire process is what they looked at. 18%, and they drew a conclusion from 18%. But I want to say to you that as a young person who participated in that recount, for me, what would have been better for this country was to go back to the polls. They should have gone back to the polls. The amount of votes that were in question, the amount of votes that were in dispute, not controversy, that were in dispute, for me as a young Guyanese, required us going back to the polls.
That's the loser of the you was one of the losers of the political party, and you was the only, you meaning the opposition, the only one making these contestations. There should have been a new election. None of the observers, Commonwealth observer OEPS observer CARICOM we count team certified that the election was
After
legitimate.
observing 18%. You agree with me there?
I know, I don't agree with you.
But they observed 18%. I'm saying to you that after
How much
they
percent you
observed
observed?
18,
How much percent
I
you
was there
observed?
I was there
So
for
no,
33 days.
Ganesh,
33 days.
CARICOM we count made the election legitimate after 18%. How many?
Well, I
how
don't
much
know.
percent you?
I don't know if they
18
made.
for CARICOM. How much are you?
I was there for 33 days, Freddie.
I didn't
Every
ask- I
single
didn't ask
day.
you for days.
Every single
I asked
day.
you for how much percent of the election. 18 for CARICOM. How much for you?
Well, if we want to put it into context and consider the APNU AFC, we observed 100%.
Yes.
But I'm saying to you, Freddie, that my opinion is that there should have been a new election. Now, regardless of whether you want to say they validate it or not, the point is there are 2 elections petitions in the court, and for Guyanese, in my view, elections petitions will pronounce whenever Horde will pronounce and say whether it was valid or invalid, whether it was credible or not credible. And you, Mr. Kissoon, and you, Leonard Gildarie, and me, and all of us in Guyana, we should hold hands in unity and call on the courts to hear the elections petition. And we should ask the PPP to stop spending
There
taxpayers'
was an election
money.
petition in
Hear me out.
2015
Hear me out.
in which the PPP lost by 0.5%. And that election petition was never heard.
Did we say it should not be heard? Did
No,
we
I'm not-
contest it or fight
I'm just
it?
telling you.
Yeah, but did the coalition contest it or fight it and say that it should not be heard? Did the coalition take taxpayers' money in 2015 and spend it to fight that it not be heard?
But
But
how
what
could
is
they fight
happening
what
now?
didn't come up? How
But
could
what
they
is
fight what
happening
didn't come
now?
up?
So whose fault is that? The coalition? But now we have a situation where the elections petitions are before the court. And we have also the state, through the Attorney General's chamber, fighting for it not to be heard. Taking taxpayers' money,
no.
fighting for it not to be heard.
No, that comes, with due respect, that comes close to propaganda. He's not fighting for it not to be heard. One of them was thrown out.
And that is appealed.
And that, Goki. The other one is if he is saying, based on the law, the court doesn't have jurisdiction to hear it. Now, if on his reading of the law, that leads him in that direction, he's a lawyer.
No, but you don't. What I'm saying to you, Freddie Kissoon, that's the technicality of it. Don't
That's
you
the
want
law
to
of
know?
it.
Don't you want to know what happened in election 2020?
Not if the hearing of it is not allowed within constitutional
Don't
law.
you want to
It's
know
allowed.
if there was fraud in election 2020? Don't you want to know if there were
I
irregularities?
don't want to know what the opposition say. And
No.
only the opposition is saying that we're
well, you're
fraud.
already
Well,
biased on this. You're already biased on it.
Well, I
You're
don't,
already
I don't
biased
want
on
to
it.
use that word. I want to say, based on my objective analysis in the Kaito Radio newsroom for 3 weeks, based on
But
what
your
I went
objective
through,
analysis was listening to a program, as you just said, newsroom, that was selling the PPP's point and continues to do
I don't
that.
agree with that.
I am saying to you
We
that
were in the-
I,
we were- well, you can ask
were
him.
outside. You were outside listening to what
I
people
think
were
he was
saying.
talking about Kaito newsroom.
Yeah.
I am
I'm
saying,
not talking
I
about
am
the Kaito news.
saying to you that I sat there, Freddie. I saw it.
All right.
Only
So
thing
what?
that can
What you
happen
saw?
to me, fraud,
And the weekend.
fraud in the
Gentlemen.
weekend.
Who else said for? Ganesh, tell me which
Freddie,
other
Freddie,
organization.
Freddie, let me come off. I want to bring it back on course. I'm going to bring 3 incidents or a couple incidents to you, and I want you to just bring it into context because we're trying to have a mature conversation. I'm not saying it's not mature here, but I'm trying to have an understanding because there's 2 sides or 3 sides to every story. Roxanne Myers, Deputy Chief Elections Officer, pick up your garbage and get out of the place. 1.
Yes.
This is
She's on video saying that.
Good. 3 or 4 of the Western diplomats walking out of the Ashman's building. Very big in the front page. The courts basically telling everybody who's coming to them, and think we up to the Caribbean Court of Justice, you're wasting our time. And then there was a swearing in of the president. Your government, your opposition, or the party, the coalition that you're part of, says this is an installed government. Could you put some things in context there for me, sir?
Well, first of all, the Roxanne Meyer incident that you referenced there and the court stories, as Freddie would say, the system allows for us in a democracy to use the court system at our disposal. I cannot speak to how GCOM conducted themselves. I'm not a part of GCOM. I had nothing to do with GCOM and their affairs. GCOM was responsible for the results. President Granger has always said that he will respect and abide by GCOM's pronouncement, which is what he did.
Did you had a look or listen to the statement of one Hans Gaskin, the son-in-law of the president, who happened to have been a minister within the government, saying basically, I wash my hands on this entire thing. I believe it's time to do the right thing. In essence, that's what he's saying. And I think it was about 3 statements that he issued. Did you have a look at that, Ganesh, and what were your thoughts on
I
that?
cannot remember vividly what is it that he said, but like I said,
Ganesh, come on.
no, I
please.
cannot. I cannot.
Please, people
I
have thousands of
cannot.
people looking
But I
at
can't
you.
if I cannot remember what he said. I cannot remember. I never dispute not hearing it, but I cannot remember what is it exactly that he said. But whatever
Well,
he
we can
said,
refresh your memory. this
whatever
evening.
he said, it was his opinion and his choice, and he did what he thought was best, which he's entitled to.
Ganesh,
Government
Ganesh,
and installed
Ganesh.
government, sir. What would be your reason?
For
to say
me,
that?
this is an installed regime.
What is our installed regime?
They were put there, as far as I'm concerned, but
Who put
based
them?
on fraudulent results. GCOM announced the results and put them there. And for me, I'm saying, when I will stop calling them an installed regime? I will stop calling them an installed regime when the petition is heard and determined. And I'm not going to fall prey into believing some
Well-
hoax of a commission of inquiry that is set up by one of the person who is actually surrounded in this controversy or this dispute, set up an inquiry and want to listen. I remember I did extensive research on the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry, and I made a presentation in the National Assembly on it also. And as far as I'm concerned, the People's Progressive Party, every time they find themselves in trouble, they turn to commission of inquiries so that they can
Ganesh,
validate their stupidity.
Ganesh,
This is my
There are
thing. I
more
found that.
commission of inquiries held by APNU AFC in 5 years
But that's
than
still-
held
wait, but
for
Freddie-
23 years that the PP were in power.
But Freddie-
I know you're doing a lot of research, but you haven't done research on what Gaskin
But
said.
Freddie,
very
Freddie, I am
confusing.
not disputing where you said, but commission of inquiry,
You know,
But
but
when
commission-
you look at how the PPP operates with commissions of inquiry,
How much commission required under the PPP?
whether it is one or two, I've just referenced the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry.
perhaps the only
The
one.
Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry was held in 2014. Do you know when is it that a motion was passed in Parliament for that commission to be held? A motion in Parliament was passed in 2005.
You
when
have
it
a-
was pronounced, let me finish.
You have a good memory.
That 2005 motion, I know I have a good memory.
But you have a memory
But
with
that
you have a memory
2005,
with what,
I said to
what
you,
Gaskin
I
said.
said to you, I never
You have
disputed,
no-
I never disputed
You
what,
don't know anything
I
what
never
Gaskin said.
disputed
You
not
know-
looking at what Gaskin said or
You
hearing
don't
what
know-
he said.
You can't
I
remember
said I
what he
can't
said.
recall what
Nothing
he
what
said.
he said. Even a
What
big
I am
Facebook,
saying to you-
even in July 17,
All
a long
right, hear me
Facebook
out
page.
now.
Yeah.
Hear me out now. In 2005, a motion was before the National Assembly for an international inquiry without delay for a commission of inquiry into the Walter Rodney's death. That motion was passed in 2005. It immediately became a resolution of the House. The government was mandated to set up that inquiry without delay. The government did not do it in 2006 to 2013.
What's your point, Daniel?
2014, they did it when the new election was coming in 2015. How you mean, what's my point? What I just told you. Every time the PPP is sinking, they turn to distraction politics.
You know
and
what-
that is what is happening here now
know
with
what-
this commission of inquiry that they're setting up with concerning elections
You know what the
2020.
former commissioner of
What
police
the
told
PPP
us
should
here?
do, the former commissioner of police can say what he wants to say. I can say what I want to say. You can say what you want to say. And you
So
can
where
say
does
what
that
you want to
lead
say.
us?
The point I am making to you is that my conviction and belief is that the People's Progressive Party always turns to distraction politics to try and hoodwink us as Guyanese from actually focusing on the issues that are affecting the people of this country. That is the problem that we have. And we sit around this table and we talk about these matters here, but we're not talking about what is happening to our ordinary citizens out there. We're not talking about how many people are punishing out there. We're not talking about people who have to travel on a daily basis with high transportation costs. We're not talking about the madness that happened in Region 5. Hear me out.
Don't
We're
forget
not talking
you're a
about...
politician.
I know,
You're
but
a
I'm saying to you,
politician.
we're not talking about the madness that happened in Region 5, where thousands of people were held in traffic for over 7 hours. We're not talking about the man who had to fetch his child and take him to the hospital
Ganesh
because he is
Mahipaul.
autistic.
Ganesh,
These are matters that matter.
Ganesh, whenever you sat in Parliament, I don't know if you were in Parliament in 2015, whenever Parliament met from 2015 to 2020, I got caught for hours in the traffic. AP and you would barricade from Lombard Street right down to the National Library. Everywhere Mr. Granger went, whole villages were barricaded. Mr. Granger went in the interior. All the hotels in the interior were
So,
booked
okay,
up.
because of that. Oh, hear me now.
No, but why
Because
you
of
talking
that.
about that?
Listen to me now. Because
Mr.
of that.
Granger was actually
All
paranoid,
right,
man.
because of that, Freddie, are you saying that it is correct now for all the ministers and even people who are not ministers, private citizens, to be gallivanting around this country with that red and blue light and sirens on their vehicle? Is that okay now because it happened when you said it happened in 2015 to 2020? Is it okay now because of what happened there in Berbice? Are you trying to justify the ignorance of what is happening now in society, but that is harming and hurting our people, that it is okay now because it happened in
want me to answer that
2015 to 2020? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I can answer the
Let
question.
us
Let me answer the-
devoid
can I answer the
ourselves.
question?
All right, go ahead.
I don't want to answer the question in which I am seen in context as critical of a mode of action that is unacceptable, but at the same time, I am locking out a similar mode of action that occurred by people of which you were part of them.
So why are you... I have looked at your program since it started. Every time you have had a program here, you had Hamilton Green, you had Priya Manik-Chan, David Hines,
Etc.,
whomever
etc.
else. I have looked at all of it. Not once did I hear Freddie Kissoon pronounce on what is happening now in society.
want
Not
me to
once
answer that?
have I
You
heard
want
you
me to
say...
answer that?
Not once, let me
All right.
finish.
Answer it, Freddie.
Not hold
I'm
on,
gonna
you're gonna
answer
answer it.
too.
Not once did I hear Freddie Kissoon call out this government for actions of, let's say, the multiple complaints that came via the cash grant, not the education cash grant, the COVID cash grant issue. You sat here with Priya Manik-Chan,
gonna answer it.
and Priya Manik-Chan made a statement and said that the AFC comprised of not only Ramjatan and the others, but there is Juretta Finance and Sherrod Duncan, and then she went on to say, she used the word sexist and racist, indicating that those are the comments that come out from these people. And you sat here, Freddie Kissoon, and you mean to tell me that you did not upsprear and remind her that Barry Ramsaran is sitting in the parliament and he was on tape with that strip and slap situation. You sat here and you know that there was a Dr.
Oh, you know I
Vishwa
know.
Mahadio.
I have a faulty memory
Listen
like
to
you.
me, listen to me.
I have a faulty memory
You have
like
been
you.
in this game long enough,
you were
Freddie.
part of
You have been in this
You were
game
part
long
of
enough.
AP and UFC.
You know that there is a doctor.
No,
you know
my-
that
my
there is a
memory is as
doctor.
faulty as you.
There's a
You
doctor
don't know
Vishwa.
about Dominic
Hold on
Gaskin.
now.
I
There's
don't
a
know
doctor.
about it.
There's a
No,
doctor
no.
Vishwa
You're giving me a
Mahadio.
phenomenal
You're not
memory.
listening to me now.
Yeah.
There's a Dr. Vishwa Mahadio who held up a sex toy
No,
in Parliament.
No.
Hold on, but he did.
Wait.
He did. He held up a sex toy in Parliament. You know also
Vishwa
about
Mahadio?
No, I don't think. I think you got the wrong person.
Dr. Vishwa Mahadio. I was sitting there.
Ganesh.
Dr. Vishwa
let me
Mahadio.
say in this
Hold on.
program,
You
we
know.
are not-
Hold on.
Myself and Gildarie are not supporting that statement.
Well, I
If-
don't listen. I was in the house
We
and I
are
saw it,
not
and there were
associated
pictures
with
to
it.
it.
Let me move on.
Hold on,
Right.
one more
Okay.
thing I want to make. You know, when Priya spoke about sexist and racist, you know what Varshini Singh, who was the former President Jagdeo's wife, you know what is it that she claimed she went through, and you didn't find it in no part of that to say Priya. because Priya did say that it is some of the most sexist and racist things she have ever heard. And you were even challenged by Jagdio because of something to do with a newspaper article that you wrote concerning racism in the. You were fired. You were fired, Freddie. You were fired under Priya. Listen, you were fired under Priya Manik Chand's ministerial. When Priya was Minister of Education,
what you expect?
the University of Guyana took advantage of you and fired you under PPP administration, and you didn't find nothing of that
those
sort.
Those are historical
Yeah, but the
record.
point
but
I'm
what
making,
you want me to do?
No, but the point
you
I'm
want
making,
me to tell Priya Manichan
No. Hear what
that
I'm
she
saying.
did all of that
Hear what
to
I'm
satisfy
saying. Hear what I'm saying.
to satisfy.
No,
but when you understand something.
The point I'm trying to make, Freddie, is that you sat here with Priya, you laughed and you gaffed, and it portrayed itself as though she was not in the hot seat. She was in the cold seat because maybe there was a reason why you did it. I don't know. But you want to seem to believe you can drill the opposition, perhaps for your own motive. But the point is, you had a PPP minister sitting here whom I've pointed out a series of things to you, and you did not drill it the way I expected it.
And the way you expected it. The way you expected it.
The way I expected it.
I conducted
I would like to believe the way many of your viewers
I conducted, you speak for the viewers. A man with
I
a
said I would like to believe.
A man with a faulty
I'm going to hold on
I'm holding on in that. I'm holding on in the Gaskin thing because it speaks volume of how the opposition. You talk about all kinds of fraud in the election. And when a phenomenally influential man, a phenomenally created global repercussion as the president's son-in-law, and what he said, I can't remember that.
But you could go back to that as much as you want, but it does not change.
I am not playing your game
here. It does not change.
I am not playing your game.
Back to border, gentlemen, ladies.
I am not playing your game here.
Back to border. Ganesh, I want to bring you back. Could you name me two parties? There was a whole bunch, and I want to say a series of names, including the Caribbean Court of Justice, Western countries, and even the Caribbean countries, CARICOM leaders who would have said, let's get on with it, and they don't agree with what is happening. And even Mayor Motley said it wasn't Guyana's finest day. Could you name me two persons or two entities which would have said, look, what happened here is a travesty of justice for the coalition, and therefore things went very wrong? Could you name me two?
Two persons?
Or two entities or a government that would have backed the coalition in what they were fighting for?
Well, I honestly cannot name two governments that backed the coalition in what they were fighting for. But listen, for me, there were a lot of geopolitics that was playing. But at the end of the day,
conspiracy
Gildarie,
you're talking about?
At the end of the day, I believe that our country indeed must know what actually took place in elections 2020. But as I said earlier to Freddie, there are burning issues that require our attention and require us to focus on in order to help the ordinary citizens of this country. And we keep harping here and many other places about elections 2020.
Should we put it behind us?
No, I'm not saying that we should put it behind us. What I'm suggesting to you, my brother, is that we should hold hands and call for petitions to be heard, and let the democratic process of the judiciary work and pronounce on it. There is only one election in this country that was ever pronounced on by a court, and it was 1997. And as much as Freddie wants to point me in a direction of rigged election, perhaps Freddie don't want to remember Balram Singh Rai when he wrote in his book about rigged election.
You remember Balram Singh Rai?
Allow me to finish.
I cannot remember what Gaskin said.
Perhaps
remember.
You see?
Oh my God.
Perhaps Freddie don't want us to know and remember
You're amazing,
that Balram Singh Rai spoke about rigged elections in the PPP when he was basically thrown out. When he was basically thrown out of the seat of chairman in the party, Balram Singh Rai.
Remember that 50
I read the book. I read the book.
man read the book.
I read
All
the
right.
book that was printed in
I know,
2005.
you didn't read what
The
Dominic Gaskin said.
the point
you didn't read
is,
what
Freddie,
Dominic Gaskin
the
said.
point is,
You think you can manipulate me?
Balram Singh Rai said that the elections,
Gaskin said?
and the PPP for
What Dominic
chairmanship.
Gaskin
You
said?
ain't want to hear this? You ain't want to hear this?
50 years
because
ago,
perhaps
no.
you're defending the PPP for a reason. But listen to
Let's
me.
defend you, Mr.
The man
PPP.
said in a
You
statement that
want me
this
to be
was the
anti-PPP or
foulest.
for PPP?
That was the foulest of elections when they favored Brintley Ben over him. And you and I both
You want me
know
to tell you
when
what Faith
read
Hagen
that,
said
when you
about the
read
election
that,
of David Granger in 2010?
you could
You
defend.
want me to tell you what
could defend the
Dr.
PPP.
Faith Hagen said about how Granger was elected?
You could say that it's not my program alone. I'm a guest and you're the host. But I'm saying
No,
to
you
you,
have-
that I have read
you have
in
jurisdiction to
depth.
say what?
I've read in depth, and I'm saying to you that from that book, which you I'm sure have a copy of, because you can't be an academic and a historian of this caliber and tell me you don't have that book. If you don't have it, maybe you don't want it. But at
I
the
have
end
the
of the
book.
day,
I
well,
have
you
the
have
book.
the book, so you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
I know what you're talking
1962,
about.
1962
I know what
is when they
Balram Singh
spoke.
Rai said. I know why he left the. But I know a lot of other things.
And may his
I
soul
know
rest
what
in
Dominic.
peace.
I know what Dominic
May his
Gaskin
soul
said.
rest in peace, because
I know
2 years
what
ago he
Dominic
died
Gaskin
at
said.
100.
Anyway, I want to bring you to this.
And the PPP is running from that. You don't hear them talking about it.
I want to bring to something. Now, Gildarie will have to shut his mouth now and write in his notebook, because I want to bring you in a direction that will take a little bit of time. Ganesh, Hamilton Green was never made the president. Hamilton Green could not have made it because the perception from Bonham right down was that the street politics had taken him over and he wasn't ready for the presidency. The same thing happened when Corbyn became leader of the PNC. People felt, no, it was not him. It couldn't be him. Even Aubrey Norton, Alexander, McAllister, and all of them confronted Corbyn. Corbyn knew he didn't have the support of the middle class because he was seen as a street man. I'm putting it to you that you are developing a style of politics that puts you in the category of Hamilton Green, Robert Corbyn, and Aubrey Norton. And at the end of the day, Ganesh, the very people that you're going out in the street and you're with them and they say, yes, let me get them. Those are the people that are going to turn away from you when it's time to vote. I'll give you one example. Ganesh, I saw a video. And when I saw this video, my mouth was open. Flies flew in and I got
Flies flew in your mouth?
food poisoning.
Oh.
There was this video in which Raphael Chotman went on stage at the 2019 Congress of the AFC and said, I hereby decline any position for leadership. I don't want to be the leadership. And you should see how people reacted. Ordinary people start to bang their head on the wall. No, Raphael, no, you can't. And all were ordinary people that Raphael Chotman would not say hello to. I am putting it to you. You're right now suspended for behavior in Parliament, which is unacceptable. You are going in the direction of Hamilton Green, Robert Corbyn, and Aubrey Norton. And when the time comes for you to contest the leadership of the PNC, they're going to choose the lawyer with the suit. They're going to choose the professor, the big professor from UG. My point to you, turn back. You're earning the name of a street fighter, and it's going to hurt your political career.
I remember you wrote an article in your column, and you dubbed me as a rising star in the PNC. So I remind you that's first point.
I have the memory to remember that.
Secondly, you said that I'm suspended from Parliament for
Conduct
behavior-
unbecoming.
Conduct unbecoming. Can you tell me what is it that I did that can be deemed as conduct unbecoming? What is it that I did, Freddie?
All right, I will ask you to tell me.
But you said I was suspended for conduct unbecoming.
But I want to hear, if that is not so, tell me why you're suspended.
Well, that is what you should have asked in the first place, as opposed to draw the
I
conclusion.
just said that you were suspended for
conduct unbecoming, and I'm telling
that's
you.
a fact right now.
But
you're
that's why I'm
suspended.
asking you, what is
Right,
it that I
right.
did?
You behave disruptive. In
What did I
Parliament.
do? What
Right,
did I
see,
do?
we
Those are
gonna-
ambiguous
Right,
terms.
you see, we're going to get on.
No, we're not going to. Let me tell you something. And you made this point, and I'm glad that this came up because I looked at Priya Manikchand's interview again, where you said, Gildarie, that the opposition was absent from Parliament from scrutinizing the monies that the PPP came for, but the PPP asked themselves questions. The Parliament is supposed to be the most democratic place in the country. There is where democracy is supposed to reign in all forms. The 8 MPs that were referred to the Committee of Privileges were sent there on a motion that was brought by Gail Teixeira. Gail Teixeira stood in the House, proposed her motion. The Speaker, in her motion, she said that we behaved disorderly. She said that we conducted ourselves in a manner that was unbecoming. And she asked that it be resolved that this matter be referred to the Committee of Privileges. The Speaker, and rightly so, established that there was a prima facie case because that's his right as Speaker. He enjoys that from the standing order. And he referred it to the Privileges Committee. The Privileges Committee is the legal tribunal vested with the power to investigate and recommend to the House their findings. Whatever they found and recommend, whatever sanction they believe should take place. We were written, the 8 MPs were written one letter from the Committee of Privileges. The letter said that we must show cause why we should not be disciplined for unbecoming behavior, disorderly conduct, and some other ambiguous terms. We responded to that letter and we ask that they specify what is it that you categorize
Please tell us
as
what,
unbecoming
please tell us what you
activity.
did in Parliament.
Listen to me. We ask that they categorize for us and tell us definitively what is it that we did. We never heard back from the Committee of Privileges, only to know that a report suddenly surfaced as a report from the Committee of Privileges, went back to the House and was voted upon. Gail Teixeira proposed the motion. Gail Teixeira deliberated in the Committee of Privileges. Gail Teixeira came back and brought the recommendations to Parliament. Gail Teixeira voted for us to be suspended. I am saying that 8 MPs were not given a fair trial. They were not allowed to come with their representative, lawyers or so on, in front of a board or in front of a committee to plead their cases. They were not given that opportunity in this democracy. And Article 144(8) of the Constitution enshrines that we must be given a fair hearing. Freddie Kissoon was the one who said some time back that a man is innocent until proven otherwise. Freddie Kissoon himself was not given an opportunity to appear before a board before his contract was terminated by the PPP, under the PPP administration by the UG Board of Governors. So the point I am making,
what
Freddie,
have you done?
I have done nothing.
Nothing that you
I did nothing that was different from what all other members of Parliament, including the PPP, did.
And what is that?
The PPP side had Anand Prasad sitting on the seat where the mace has to be placed. Anand Prasad was sitting on that seat where the mace had to be placed using his phone. He was not sent to the Privileges Committee. The Prime Minister was walking around the Parliament raising up his hands. He was not sent to the Committee of Privileges. I was walking around in the House, but I was sent to the Privileges Committee.
And Ferguson was not seen grabbing the mace and she falling on her backside.
I am not disputing that. I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing Annette Ferguson doing that.
So she's guilty.
It is not within me. I am not a competent authority in law to determine whether Annette was guilty or not. The competent authority is the Committee of Privileges after due process is followed. And you, Freddie, who advocates for democracy and who stands for the rule of law and who believes that the Constitution is our supreme law, knows that the law of natural justice and a competent jurisdiction in the sense of a tribunal is the competent authority to determine who's guilty and who's not. When you were charged When you were charged, is it the police that said you were guilty or you were placed before the court for the judge to determine? When miasmic fluid was dashed in your face by whomever you associated with and you reported it, isn't it an investigation that had to go about? They had to conduct an investigation, charge the people, and then put them before the courts.
So what?
The point I'm making is that the law should have been followed.
Well,
So
the
due process and it's
Parliament
before the
doesn't
court
have
right
its
now.
own procedures.
Parliament has its own procedures, but it is not to act outside of the law, outside of the constitution.
But that's your
And if
argument. No, but
no,
what
listen,
you
hold on.
argue
Let me
in
make
here.
this point to Freddie. If you want to tell me like what I heard some other people saying that Parliament could do what they want, therefore you are telling me that the Parliament could have passed a sanction to kill all 8 MPs and the court can't do nothing
No,
about
that's
it.
a bad analogy.
It's not a bad
That's
analogy.
a
The fact
terrible
of the matter
analogy.
is the Parliament has to act within the confines of the Constitution.
But Ganesh, would you agree if I say to you that is your take on the matter, that you have a right to due process, which is
Yeah.
to the court, right?
Yes.
Which is where it's at.
Well,
at the moment.
the
Because
tribunal,
you
the
disagree
tribunal
with
in
the
this sense.
procedures or the process that was followed in Parliament.
And that is why the matter is before the court.
It's before the court. So let's move on. We saw after 2020 election the swearing in of Irfan Ali, the disappearance of David Granger. Do you agree
I don't
with
like
him?
that descriptive word.
Well, I'm using that word that
But he
David
doesn't have,
Granger has not
he doesn't have the
disappeared.
right to use the
But
word.
he has
that-
not
Okay.
disappeared.
Right.
Say,
So,
no.
there's some
Don't
people-
let Ganesh.
Hey man, let me ask a
Don't
question.
let Ganesh shape your vocabulary.
No, he can't shape
He
it. I
can-
already
no,
said
but
this
stick
way.
with
So
your
are you saying
disappearance.
that Donald Ramatar disappeared?
I'm going
Are
to
you going to
ask
say
you
that?
the disappearance
That's
of
Donald Ramatar disappeared. Moses Naka
David-
disappeared.
David
Granger
Granger would have disappeared from the. We've never seen him in another interview, or at least availed himself of another interview. Do you believe that he would have turned his back on his supporters, on his party in the hour of need?
David Granger appears on his program every Friday.
Have you seen him appear in any program
Public
where there were
interest.
questions asked?
The public
From the public?
interest. I am not aware if anybody invited him to any program. I don't know if you did or if Freddie did. But
Could
I'm not
you invite
aware.
him to our program?
I'm not aware.
You have a number for him?
You can invite him. I don't.
Yeah.
You. How did
No,
you
we
get
ask-
me?
we asking
How
you
did
to
you
use-
get me?
we
You
asking
called
you to-
me.
no,
How
no.
did you get me?
We're asking you to
Listen,
use your
you could tell me you
collegial
don't have-
connection.
you could
Here
tell me
is
you don't
some-
have any
we run
communication
out of
with
time.
Granger.
It's something I want. Time just went. Here's something I want to ask you. I have a feeling now. It's a feeling. I have a feeling that in the PNC, there are certain factions. I think these factions are innocent and not confrontational, but the factions exist. And I want to feel from your, I want to use a word before you object, from your systematic body language over a period of months, your déploiement, for want of a better word, you seem to be a faction that's more inclined towards Amna Ali, Joe Harmon, Granger. And you're not a hard and fastened Aubrey Norton aficionado. I repeat, I think these factions are not very visible. But I want to think that is where in the PNC your politics lie. Is that a good description?
Let me answer that by saying this. First of all, the PNC and the PNCR, or the PNCR, has competent, educated, and inspiring leaders. In 2010,
I didn't
was
hear him answer
supporting...
my question. Whether in the
Let me
hour-
answer Freddie first just now. In 2010, I supported Winston Shreepal Murray. Winston Murray died, unfortunately, and upon a reassessment, I throwed my support behind Carl Barrington Greenidge. Carl Barrington Greenidge lost to President Granger, and I rallied around President Granger because he was way better and still is better than Donald Ramatar. In 2015, he won the presidency. In 2021, December, I supported Joseph Harmon, not against Aubrey Norton. I didn't campaign against Aubrey Norton. I campaigned for Joseph Harmon because I knew Joseph Harmon more intimately, if I may use that word. But I also knew and still know Aubrey Norton to be grounded in the grassroots of our party, to be an academic, and I know him to be very people-centered, and he is not against any individual in this country. Joseph Harman lost, and I am now with Aubrey Compton Norton, who is the leader of our party, elected in a democratic process, and he enjoys the support of myself and all other comrades of the PNCR. All other comrades. All other comrades of the PNCR.
But you're a PNC executive. One has to expect you to see that. But
I'm telling you the facts.
Let me give.
Are you a PPP executive?
I'm not. I'm never in any party.
I don't know. I'm asking. I don't know.
That's your question.
Are you a PPP executive?
I was never in any political
Do
party.
you favor the PPP over the PNC right now?
I don't want to answer the way you put it. I think the PNC has serious genetic
I
problems.
want you to know that under the APNU AFC, nobody dashed any miasmic fluid in your face.
But
under the APNU AFC,
I don't understand. Why
Under
you
the
want me to
APNU
support
AFC,
the Wigan
I am
election,
not saying I
bringing
want you
back
to support
Fort
anybody.
Bonham, and you want me
I'm
to
not saying I
support
want you to support anybody. I want you to come clean with your
Listen.
conscience and realize
you
that
know
what
my
happened.
conscience. What happened
realize
to me?
what happened
You
to
want me to tell you what happened?
under the PPP.
I know what happened to me.
Never happened to you
I know
under the
what- I
APNU
know,
AFC.
worse.
Democracy
worse
was
happened.
there.
Worse happened.
Democracy was
Are you
there.
going to listen?
Under
Worse
the
happened.
APNU
You know what
AFC,
happened to
this
me?
country was
You want
moving
me
in an
to- no,
equitable
Gildarie,
manner
just give me a chance.
for our people.
You don't want me to tell you what happened under the PNC with me? I am going to tell you now.
Under the PNC?
Under the PNC, APNU AFC regime now. Hear what I'm going to do for you, Ganesh Mahipaul. I am going to go into bravado, chauvinism, and show off right now. And I am going to beat my drum and justify that bravado, chauvinism, and show off. I believe in my heart and in my academic mind that all of what you said, the Cho thing and me, I believe that contributed to the way people voted in 2011 and 2015. And I believe what happened after 2015 was a vulgar, degenerate dismissal by the power arrogance of APNU AFC in that they refuse to look at people who sacrificed so much and could make a contribution.
I understand you now.
No,
I
you understand me now.
No, I understand you now. I understand you now. Because you are not given a job, because you are not given favorite treatment, you are against
that's
the
what you
coalition.
no.
I now understand
You call that fair. You call it.
I now understand
you
you.
call it immoral.
No, I understand you. I
You
understand
call
you. Perhaps
immoral.
maybe you wanted a ministerial position. I now understand
you.
you.
Call immoral.
No, I understand you. I'm sorry. Let me apologize.
You don't.
Let me
You don't.
apologize.
I understand
for
your
the,
cynicism.
Let me
You don't.
apologize to
I
you.
am saying.
Let me apologize to you for what the coalition did to you.
The coalition that I brought
not
into power.
giving you-
Hold on a sec.
By
Hold on
not
a sec.
giving you a
Did I bring-
ministerial
Did I bring
position.
you up? Did I
Let
bring
me
the
apologize
Did
for
I
that.
bring the disciplinary
So I
into
now
power?
understand
No.
why you hate the
finished?
coalition
You finished?
and why you're
You
so
finished?
against the
Look me in
coalition.
the
I now
eyes.
understand
Look
it.
me in the eyes and tell me if
I-
the miasmic substance shown on me didn't bring your incompetent, mediocre president to power. Look at that.
The
Look at
people
that.
of Guyana voted
Look-
overwhelmingly for David
And
Granger.
I didn't help to bring them
because
to vote for him.
all of us helped. I helped
But I
too.
helped more than you.
I helped
But
too.
I helped more than
Leonard
you. More than
Gildarie helped too.
Well, some helped more
But
than
now,
others.
but
Some
hear what
more
you're doing
and
now.
some
Hear
more.
what you're doing now.
Some more.
Hear what
think-
you're doing now.
You think I'm
Hear
going to
what
let
you're
you
doing
get
now.
away
No,
with
but hear what you're doing now.
I know what
Hear
I'm
you're
doing.
now.
You don't know
You
what I'm
want to
doing,
sing
you
to keep. I don't know. Are you being paid by the PPP for this?
I asked him that.
If I'm being paid by the PPP.
For doing what you're doing here now.
It's David Hines.
I'm asking. I don't know.
I'm answering that. It's David Hines, Sherrod Duncan, being paid
you're
by which
asking me by
PNC
a
people?
question. You're asking me a question.
No, but I'm asking you now. Is David Hines and Sherrod Duncan being paid by which African businessmen?
David Hines and Sherrod Duncan has associated themselves. Well, let me deal with one at a time. Sherrod Duncan has associated himself
you didn't
with
ask
the
the que-
AFC. So Sherrod Duncan is advocating the AFC's cause.
No, but is he paid
and
by anybody?
By extension, the
Is he
AP and
paid by
AFC.
anybody to do that?
David Hines has associated himself with the WPA and he's advancing the WPA's cause. You are advancing the PPP cause. Are you associated with the PPP?
I'm not associated with any political
Well, that
party,
is why I
any
asked the
government.
question.
No, but how
I
how
am
payment
carrying
come in?
AP and Anyways, he's not paying me.
Who paid you to join the PNC?
APNU, nobody paid me to join. That was my
but somebody paid
democratic
me.
choice.
All right, that was your.
That's my
no,
democratic
but
choice,
somebody,
but no.
somebody paid me.
But look what you're doing. You are not complaining, Freddie.
Did you see?
You are not complaining about. Listen.
Do you know what's being said about?
You are not.
Because I'm
you
not
are
complaining, I'm being paid.
No. Hear me out. Hear me out.
Do you
Hold
think
on,
I'm being
Gildarie.
paid?
Listen.
Are you
right now the composition?
Were you
Listen to me.
paid to join the PNC? Yes
Listen.
or no?
Right now, the composition of all the tender boards, national tender board, regional tender board, ministerial tender
coming
board,
from you, no
is
one
done
can
in a
believe.
way where
Gildarie.
there is no representation of the
Gildarie.
opposition.
Gildarie.
Freddie ain't complaining about that.
But I don't know if
Freddie
what
ain't
you're
com-
saying is true.
But
you come across
therefore
as a
ask the question.
you come across here as a very untruthful
Ask the
person.
question.
You come across here as
I
a
don't
person
care if you
propaganda.
say if I'm an
I am
untruthful
saying
person.
it.
I'm telling you.
You coming across.
Under the
one has to be
coalition,
careful what one say.
under the
what you-
coalition,
what
there
you
was
say.
representation on the national tender board, ministerial tender board, and regional tender board
We
from
don't
both
know
sides.
that is true.
PPP
You're
and
a propagandist.
APNU. Now, under the PPP, there's no member of the coalition in these regions, regional tender board.
Why not?
Because of how they're doing it.
I
In
mean,
region
believe
one,
you.
What is the
We
law?
must believe
okay,
you.
Listen,
Freddie,
we
hold on.
go,
He's made a statement with regards to the composition of the tender
of
board.
tender boards, where
What does-
billions of dollars
what
pass
does the
through.
requirement say? Does the requirement say that there has
The
to be
law
opposition?
says that there should be 5 members of regional tender boards, of which 3 are selected by the national tender board and 2 by the RDC, by the regional administration, region of the respective
in
regions.
every region.
Under the coalition, the RDC, the elected officials of the RDC, they nominated or elected their 2 people. Region 1 did it to Region 10 under the coalition. Let me tell you what happened now under the PPP. Region 1, they did it. They elected their 2. Region 1 is a controlled RDC by the PPP. Region 2 elected their 2. The RDC, they're controlled by the PPP. Region 3 elected their 2. They're controlled by the PPP too. Region 4, the 2 were selected by the REO.
Why was this not taken to court?
This matter is engaging the Procurement Act of 2003. It was raised with the Finance Secretary by myself, who's shadowing local government.
why
and
did
regional
we not
government.
take it to
A
court?
question
If
was
it's illegal.
asked. A question was asked in Parliament, and we are awaiting the answer. And then it is going to move to the.
Gildarie, this is
necessary
coming from a
necessary-
PNC parliamentarian.
But it is
The fact-
factual,
Oh,
Freddie,
you know what?
because
you
I know
don't
what I'm
know.
saying.
You don't know facts. If
But
the
you don't want to
parents
hear
want
that.
If facts appear
You
in
don't
front of
want
you,
to hear
George.
that, Freddie.
Anyway,
You
before
don't
we
want-
go,
the same thing
before we
happened
go, I
in
want to
Region
ask you a
10.
question.
The same thing happened in Region 10 and 7, you
Before
know.
we go, I want to ask you a question. Is there anybody in the media, because time is caught up upon, is there anybody in the media who takes the PNC side, the Morava Waves, God Mosley? Are people paying them? Because when you look at the program, are people paying them? You know,
This payment thing really hit you hard, man.
no, I want to prove your hypocrisy and your
What
double
hypocrisy?
standard.
The people that are carrying
somehow,
all I did was
guess
to
what?
ask.
No, here what you getting at? Why is Freddie supporting the PP? They must be paying him. So who's paying them around? Who's paying all those people? Who's
asked,
supporting
Freddie,
Duncan to come every night?
all I asked,
Who is paying David and Tyler program?
Freddie Kissoon, Sherrod Duncan associates himself publicly
But that doesn't
with
mean
the AFC.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean somebody
David
else.
Hines is,
Yeah,
listen,
but you're
listen.
missing the point.
No, you
the
missing
point
the
is
point.
money.
You
The
are
point is
trying to justify.
Why is they getting?
And you know they say it's only when something when you hit the when they
No,
when
no,
you
no,
hit
listen,
the, when you
listen.
take the hammer you
Who
hit
is
the nail
buying?
head.
Who is
Then
buying
is when you
Duncan
start
suits?
the
Fame?
problem,
Alright,
you
who's
know.
buying Duncan suits fame?
Duncan is buying his own suit.
So why you think PPP paying me?
I ask you the question.
And I answer, no, but why you don't ask your colleagues who paying them?
You come
Alright,
across,
listen.
you tell the nation.
All right, gentlemen.
You always tell the nation that you are an impartial person, that you're a person that stands
No,
for
guess
what is
what?
right,
My
and you're
impartiality don't suit you.
and you're philosophically
No,
driven by facts.
You want me to
But
be
you ain't
anti-PPP.
finding no problem. As I told you, Priya Manichan sat right here and it was
And here, guess
calm
what?
water.
You are finding
was a
nothing.
calm
You are
water.
finding nothing that the government do is
But
good. You're a
not-
propagandist.
I never said that.
You're a
Let me
propagandist.
make this statement very
You're
clear
a
to you.
propagandist.
Let me say this to you. Since I've been referencing Priya's name so much, I want to say to you that indeed the rollout of that cash grant in terms of how it was done was good.
I forced
In
you.
terms-
I had to force you.
No, you
because
didn't
of
force
making-
me. You didn't
I
force
forced
me.
you, of course.
But here was my problem
I
with
forced
it. I want you should have asked Priya, but you didn't find favor and time to do that. Because perhaps the
I
water
wasn't
was too
using
calm.
your mentality.
The water was too calm. It wasn't the hot seat
I
then.
wasn't using your mentality.
I want you to go, when you go home, email her and ask her what
You do
was
that.
the expense.
You do it.
Ask her what
You
was
do
the
it.
expense for her and her team
When you go
to
home.
travel across this country to share out that
Yeah,
cash
when
grant.
you go
and
home.
all they did was to go for picture
All right.
moment.
We got to go.
We have 10
Here I want that.
we have 10 regional education offices in this country.
Please do one.
And they were the ones who were doing the actual
Please
work.
do one thing before
All
when we
Priya
go
and
home.
the people from the Ministry of Education had to do was to move around, see that they're there and take pictures. Ask them for me how much money they spent
Ganesh,
doing that. And
last-
you're going to realize, if I'm correct, you're going to realize that we could have added
One last
5,000 more
question.
to that
One last
30,000.
question before we go. We got to go now. I'm going to give you Dominic Gaskin's number. When you go home, please ask him what he said
Okay, I
over
will.
the period.
I will.
Right.
I will.
All right. Honorable member, back to it. I don't know if you say suspended or honorable.
Honorable suspended.
Honorable suspended member, you're part of the Public Accounts Committee. I have a serious problem. Back in my days at Kaiser News, I used to be covering the Public Accounts Committee.
I saw you, sorry to stop you, but I saw you launched something the other day. I don't know if you're getting
I
big
invited
contracts
Freddie.
and so on. You could have invited me too.
Ladies
Anyway,
and
continue.
gentlemen, I have some screens along these bank on the overpass. I had to jump through the hoops to get it. I think Freddie raised it. I haven't been given, we've been given some extra time. I have not been given any contracts by the government. I'm not affiliated with any government. I speak to both the opposition and the government from time to time. I think I have a reasonable relationship with all parties. This program here will remain that way without any pay from anybody. Freddie could dance his tune or
But I want
whatever
to tell
it
you,
is,
Gildarie,
but he's not being paid.
those screens,
I'm not being
those
paid.
screens.
We can't
are doing
impose
a
in the studio, Gildarie.
Those,
We have to
those
go.
screens
We
are
have to
doing a
go.
fantastic job.
I thank you very much for that. But I don't know, but to answer your question, and I want to make it clear.
You were saying
because-
something with the Public Accounts Committee.
Yes.
No, our time is
Man,
come
I'm
up with us.
enjoying
We can't-
here, man.
No,
I
we
know
can't
we could
impose in the
extend a
station.
little.
They
We
got,
can't impose
they
in
asked,
the-
they said 10
we-
minutes, Freddie. I just want to ask him this question. You sitting in the Public Accounts Committee, which examines the spending of government, those red flags that are raised by the Auditor General's office. Year after year, whenever they have the time, except for the pandemic period. Could you say that we're wasting our time and PAC is toothless, and then when it comes to government spending, it seems that if everybody who steals or do, because you can't be any other thing. You know what the laws are when you are the accounting officer, the person who has to sign the check on behalf of the government. Yet you bypass it and you see it happen year after year. The Auditor General do it. Then it goes to the Public Accounts Committee. You go to it, they make recommendation. Nothing happens. Millions of dollars
said
goes missing. I want to ask you if we're doing the right thing in keeping the oversight via Public Accounts Committee in this country, or we need to get a little more serious than that, maybe pass some laws, because obviously it's not working.
All right, let me
So
say
you vex
this.
you didn't become a minister and the disappearing president didn't become president again. That's
This-
why
this
all
thing
the
proper
old
hard,
boys say.
Freddie, man, you
That's
know.
why all no, I want to expose you.
Freddie,
you know,
there's a
Freddie,
question on the
you
no,
table.
you know
Honorable
what?
suspended
No,
member.
I want
Freddie,
to expose
you
him.
can't
Y'all
expose
saying
me.
the election is rigged because
Freddie,
y'all ain't getting.
Freddie, you can't
You ain't getting.
expose
You
me,
become no
Freddie.
minister.
I already said what I had to say.
Granger didn't have
I
the
already
opportunity
said
to
what
become.
I had to say.
Granger
I
didn't
don't.
have the opportunity to become.
Okay, let me put it this
another-
way. I am of the view that Freddie is being paid by the PPP to do what he's doing.
Thank you. Answer the question.
Now, let
please.
me answer your question.
Yes, sir.
Dating back from since
What am I doing?
2009, from since 2009 to date, I have seen that the Auditor General keeps finding one set of problems: overpayment of contracts, stores regulations being violated. The government, they pay the contractor too much percentage of the money to start up the contract. A series of problems the Auditor General has been finding dating back. Well, I have reports from 2009. I believe it goes further back. What I have suggested in the PAC and through the chairman, Jormin Figueira, is that we have to start looking at where we are and this inherited problem that these permanent secretaries are getting and this inherited practice of not doing what's right, we have to clamp down on it. It calls for the entire
I mean,
public
clamp down. Is it that we
clamp
talk?
down in the sense that the entire Public Accounts Committee, both the PPP and the APNU AFC, when they make these recommendations in the Public Accounts
When
Committee,
are we going to start jailing
and
people
it's sent-
and pass new laws?
well, right now, that's a perfect question for the Finance Secretary of the country, so Krishnalal Pasha. But what I'm saying to you is that when we make these recommendations at the PAC level, it goes to the government to implement. It is the government that has to implement it. The government formulates the
But
Treasury
you in government,
memorandum.
how come we didn't go back and see this?
First of all, I was, as I said to you at the start of this program, I was in region number 3 functioning as Regional Information Officer. I was not a minister of government, nor was I the finance secretary. I also pointed to you that these issues that the Auditor General has brought out dates back as far back as time immemorial. The point I'm making to you is that the government of the day, they have to implement the recommendations that come out. Look, Bishop Edgil is in the PAC. Bishop Edgil complains bitterly when he examined 2017 and 2018 report about paying contractors more than the stipulated amount as the initial payment, which I think is between 10 to 20%. And in the Auditor General's report of 2020, I pointed out to him in the National Assembly that there are contracts that came out from his ministry where contractors were paid 50% and the work has not begun. 50% mobilization cost.
Why
if I
you
may
didn't
term it
correct that
way.
thing? You see the,
And
you see
I
the-
brought it
you
out.
See the went, you see the went that he got
I
getting
brought it out.
from
I
your
brought
government?
it out. I brought
Anyway,
it out in the. I brought it out in the National Assembly. And when I spoke about it, Bishop Edgil got up and
look,
walked
you
out.
want a piece of guava? We gotta go.
Freddie, we have
Another
to wrap
piece-
it up now.
You want another
Honorable
piece to go?
suspended Freddie.
Thank you.
Honorable suspended member. As we close, could you just very quickly, in about 30 seconds or so, talk to our people? We have to invite you back. Obviously, you have a lot to say, and it's good to have talks from across the divide, and we're going to agree to disagree very quickly.
Well, all I want to say is that the people of Guyana, they recognize that this administration is operating in a manner that doesn't cater for them. And I think they realize that this type of economics where they are fighting to enrich their friends, families, and favorites, and it's not reaching to the poorer set of people, I believe they recognize that the coalition had a system in place where they were lifting people with the tide and they were treating people with equity. Public servants were enjoying salary increases. I know my good friend Freddie Kissoon stands up for public servants. I heard him saying that. Police, nurses, and doctors, and so on. And we need to enrich our working class. We need to make life better for them. We need to spread the resources of our country equitably and hoist everybody then in an equitable manner so that the tide can carry all at once rather than the selected few that are currently benefiting. And I know that the APNU AFC stands for equitable distribution of our resources to all Guyanese. I'm not seeing that from the PPP. And with the return of the APNU AFC, we will continue to work for the benefit of all Guyanese.
Freddie Kissoon, before I move to you, can I wait until we finish so you can eat? Jesus Lord. Okay, Freddie, in your closing.
Sometimes you don't have anything interesting to say. This program is good. It's good. We have my part. No. I just want to say that I believe that people like Ganesh Mahipaul and the rest of them, when they come on these programs and 1,000 people watch, they think they are fooling these people. That they can say this about Freddie Kissoon, that about, but people know who they are. People see Sherrod Duncan and doing his nonsense. People see, but I feel for Ganesh that he wanted to become a minister and Granger wanted to be like Bonham to rule for 30 years, but they don't have the capacity or the quality to be re-elected. That's all I want to say.
People are
Thank
seeing
you very
through,
much. So,
Freddie.
ladies and
People are seeing
gentlemen,
it through
that
very
was
clearly.
it for the night. We want to say, as always, as we do, take care on the roadways. Be careful. Let's, use a little more restraint and, protect others' lives. And if you see something, do something. Take some pictures, send it to us. Let's post it up. You need to shame some people. Until then, we're going to be back on Wednesday evening, same place, same time. Have a pleasant rest of the evening.